Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hashtag Clocked In with me, your host, Jordan Edwards. I'm thrilled to have you tune in as we dive into the dynamic world of productivity, success, and stories of incredible individuals who've mastered the art of getting things done. Whether you're commuting, hitting the gym, or just relaxing at home, this podcast is the go-to source for inspiration and actionable tips to level up your productivity game. I'm on a mission to unravel the secrets of those who seem to effortlessly manage their time and achieve their goals. So if you're ready to clock in and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. We've got a lineup of amazing guests, industry experts, and thought leaders who will share their insights and strategies to help us crush your to-do list and make the most out of every moment. Get ready to get inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools you need to supercharge your productivity. This is Hashtag Clocked In with Jordan Edwards. Let's dive in. Hey, what's going on, guys? We got a special guest here today. We have Torkil Faero. He's a doctor, a photographer, and a best-selling author. And I'm excited to have him on today because he's talking about things that can really just simplify your life and make you live a lot longer, which who doesn't want to live longer? So, Torkil, great to have you here. What is the importance of these Oura rings, Fitbits, Garmin's, phone tracking mechanisms? Why are these important?
Yeah, hi Jordan, and thanks for having me on your
Absolutely.
podcast. The benefit of these trackers is that we can regulate our stress level so that we are able to enjoy life more in the moment, be more refreshed, in the morning, perform better, but also in the long run to live longer because the right lifestyle habits that produces health will make you better in the moment, and also for a long time. So that is why it's so important to find the way to regulate your autonomic nervous system, your stress balance. So and that's what I've done. I've written a book about it. It's the first book actually on how to use the wearables for the benefit of your health. Um, and it has been actually today, it has been for 68 weeks on the Norwegian bestseller list. So it's just been an amazing journey. So anyway, it's a lot of people already have it. The wearables. They have their Apple Watch or their Garmin or Fitbit, as you say, but they don't really know the possibilities inside the systems. How you can use your heart rate to regulate your habits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, when we had the intro call, I started to understand it a little bit, but so like the basic one I look at is like resting heart rate. And I'm like, if I can lower my resting heart rate, then I'm healthier. But you were saying that there's
Yeah,
other variables that are super important. Can you
yeah.
share what those are and just what they even do for people?
The more important metric is the heart rate variability. It is connected to the heart rate. So when you get the lower heart rate, you get the higher heart rate variability, which is good. And the heart rate variability is like looking at the heart rate with a magnifying glass. You can tell so much more from the heart rate variability than from your heart rate. And the reason is that the heart rate variability, the variation between heartbeats on in breath and out breath, will tell you about the state of your autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is the stress system of your body, the on and
Oh,
off
wow.
system. So when you are resting, when you're in the parasympathetic mode, then your heart rate, when you breathe in, will go up a little bit. And when you breathe out, it will go down a little bit to kind of save some energy because there will be less oxygen in the lungs on the out breath. So it will save, measured in milliseconds, but over your lifetime, you can save like 350 million beats. And that means a lot in the health perspective. Anyway, that is if you're in the rested state,
Yeah.
the recovery state where the body can do its recovery processes, the immune system works, fixing everything that's wrong in the body, which it does continuously. But if you're in the stress state, then you will have the same heart rate even on the out breath, even when there is
Okay.
less oxygen in the lungs. So it's like the ancient system in our brain will interpret the stress as Your life is at stake, and we have to, push through even if there is less oxygen in the lungs. And the wearables can detect this difference from the rested mode with the variation between heartbeats and the stressed mode with a very regular beat. And of course, with artificial intelligence, it can tell you and give an estimate of your capacity in the moment. How well are you rested? How is your stress balance? And this is an insight into our physiology that is just amazing for me as a doctor,
Yeah.
because this is really what we need, because there are so many people that are overstressed. They are taxing themselves too much, sleeping too little, drinking too much alcohol, eating the wrong food, and all the bad habits that leads to disease is measurable in heart rate variability. So that's kind of the magic of it. And that you have this like a speedometer of your physiology on your wrist available all the time as you go, and you have the control and not the doctor. You have the most important metric, I would say. The most important metric of your physiology is the heart rate variability, and it's available to you at all times, and makes it easier. Just like of course it's easier to drive a car with all the numbers, on the
Yes.
dashboard. This is kind of a dashboard for your own speed and your own function.
Yeah. And the thing I love about that is that when you sit there and really think about it, the biggest issue with health is, and it's not health in general, but it's just kind of everything, is that we usually pick the number on the scale. The scale is usually our indicator of, oh, I'm down 10 pounds, or I'm up 10 pounds, or I'm fat, or I'm skinny, or I'm whatever. But the scale number is not an indicator of how healthy you actually are. So that's why things like the heart rate variability, as Torkil was saying, that lets you know your stress element. And when you're able to measure and monitor something, you can improve it. It's most of the time our eyes and our mind are on the wrong variables. So we focus on these variables that just aren't that important. And that happened to me when I was doing it was a challenge called 75 Hard, where you work out 2 times a day, drink water, no alcohol. And there's a point where like you'll stop losing weight. And it's like, okay, I gotta put muscle on. So then you move to like the body fat. How much body fat percentage do I have? And you just start adjusting the variables. But my point here being is for the audience to realize if you can track the HRV, you can figure out your stress. Stress is like one of the most silent killers. And a lot of people don't talk about it, but we have a lot of people when you're working jobs, very high levels of stress occur. And some people don't realize that it's literally killing them.
Yeah, the high stress level is, the root cause of most of the diseases in the modern world. And it's not only stress like you're mentally stressed for some, deadline or whatever. It's also stress from food, the wrong food, from alcohol, from being in a poor condition, a poor fitness level. You may be training too hard, maybe the 75 hard was too hard. It could wear you down, particularly if you start from a low fitness level, it can be
Yeah.
very hard. And you will underperform. So if you are stressed, you will underperform. You will not get the full value out of your prefrontal cortex, with intelligent
Yeah.
mind, because you are stressed out and you don't think clearly and you make wrong decisions, if you are stressed. So this is not only, for your health, but the good health is the basis of good performance.
Yeah.
So if you want to perform well at work, if you want your company to perform well, you need people with a good stress balance, with a, with
Yeah.
a with a good access to this parasympathetic mode of your autonomic nervous system.
Absolutely. So where did you even come up with this and realize that the HRV is an important metric? How did you start to find this? Because I feel like not too many people are talking about this.
Yeah, and even I, as a doctor, was not aware of this metric until 5 years ago. I
Oh,
was
wow.
sailing with my family. We have been sailing halfway around the world until COVID hit with the family, and I was in a hammock in Moria, the neighboring island to Tahiti in French Polynesia. And
Okay.
I was reading a fascinating book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, an
Yeah.
American psychiatrist. And I was reading about a metric called HRV, heart rate variability. I'd never heard of it. And he was telling me that this metric can tell them, the effect of the mental treatment. So if the patient has a good HRV, it will be more accessible, for conversations, to improve. And if the HRV is worse, it will not be any reason to talk, because they're not in a position to make use of the talk, they're too stressed out. Um, and then when I came home, I just started investigating, and I found out that we actually have these devices that can track our autonomic nervous system. And I started using it myself just for my own sake. So for 2 years, I was just experimenting myself because there was no guidebook. I've written the first one, so there was no way to guide it, and I got so many surprises of how the autonomic nervous system affects my function, my health and my 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 energy in the moment. And then after then 3 years, my publisher got aware of it. I had written a book called The Camera Cure for them earlier,
Okay.
and then they saw that I was doing this weird thing, keeping track of my pulse. Nobody else was doing it, and they asked me if this was a book for them, and it was. So.
Incredible. Incredible. And let's dive into the travel. You said you were traveling, sailing halfway around the world?
Yeah, yeah. So we have been sailing on and off since actually 2012. We started sailing for a year. We were supposed to be out for 4 years, but after 1 year, just as we were in the Panama Canal on the Caribbean side, waiting to go through, I got the message that my father was sick. He had got cancer and terminal cancer, and we just had to lock up the boat by the canal and leave it for home. And within 3 months, we saw him just wither away and die in 3 months. And he had actually been on the boat just 1 month before we got the
Oh,
message.
wow.
The trip suddenly came to a halt, and then from that on, I changed my life totally around from that on because my health was really not. I had not had focus on my health. I had only had focus on this trip, for many
Yeah.
years, to finance it and to plan it and so on.
So
So everything changed.
I want everyone to take a second, and I want this to be their wake up for if you're not in a great peak health state, you can change it at any moment. You just have to make the decision and start the lifestyle changes.
Oh yeah, and I did everything wrong in the book. So all the advice that I do in the book, on sleep, on nutrition, on alcohol, on exercise, I did everything wrong. So I had to change everything, kind of an extreme makeover, because I saw I was heading in the wrong way. I was heading towards the state of my patients, that I that financed my trip. I
Yeah.
was I was starting to look like them,
And
and I did not. I hadn't really realized it because I had my focus on this trip.
and can you explain how
So
Norway's like the doctor system, like how you're a doctor, but how that is? Because it's a little bit different than the
yeah,
US.
yeah. In Norway, I don't know. There's a public healthcare system. And every county, there's like 500 counties all over Norway. And every county more or less have to have a doctor on call 24/7. And what I do is I go to the periphery, to the rural areas. Like on last Sunday, I was in an island off the west coast of Norway, and this Sunday and just in a couple of days, I'll go to the northern Norway and go there working on an island 24/7. Um, so I've been doing that for all these years, always being a freelancer, because I wanted to travel. So I wanted to work hard, and then go traveling. And luckily, I'm able to do that and have kind of the freedom to roam the world um, with this system in Norway. So,
So
but I actually heard of it. The first time I heard of it was in Canada. So
really,
I was traveling around the world when I was 20 years old. When with airplanes and
yeah.
around the world ticket, for a year. And then I understood that in Canada you could work like half the year in the north and then you could go traveling. So I thought, okay, this is a good idea. I should be a doctor and work part-time and then go traveling.
But I
That
want everyone to, yeah, I want everyone to sit there and listen because when Torkil explained this to me for the first time, I'm like, that's one of the most fascinating things because like right now I'm traveling for 7 weeks around Europe, but we're working obviously and we're doing some different things. But when you're like, yeah, I freelance doctor and then I leave and then I get save up the money and then I go on a trip, I'm like, that's fascinating. How does I've never
yeah.
even heard of that. But this is the power of having different conversations. So for you, how have you implemented that doctor thing into your life and what are some of the cool trips you've been on? Obviously the sailing, but
Yeah. So I've been working on because Norway is such a beautiful country. So I've been working in the northern Norway. I've been working in the Lappish, it's an indigenous people in the northern Norway also. So, and working as a doctor, you kind of get behind the facades, you get behind and get to know the place so much better because you see people all the time
yeah.
that are living there. So I often say that I've used my camera and my stethoscope as kind of tickets to get into people's lives, to see like a passport into other people's life because I've been traveling for like probably 6, 7 years in total out of my 55 years now. And the camera, it gives you access to people. You can photograph people, you get invited in often, and so on. And the same is with the stethoscope, I can examine people. I get to know their life stories, what is their troubles, why do they get sick? Why do they get healthy? Um, yeah. So I've been just curious, it's the curiosity that has driven me to explore because I see that being a general practitioner is like being on the front row, to life, and it has taught me so much. Yeah.
Yeah, that purpose behind not just being a doctor, but to understand people's journeys and understand what's making them work, what's making them not work. I've never heard a doctor describe being a doctor like that. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that may be also the reason why I've made these different books that are different from because it's just I mean it's hard to understand that I'm the one writing the book on how to use wearables to improve your health. I'm not a
Yeah.
professor, I'm not a PhD, I'm just a normal doctor having
Yeah.
stumbled over this important metric and the use and how you can combine it with wearables. And also the book I wrote, The Camera Cure, is also about how you can use photography as a means to improve your life. And the idea of the Camera Cure is that the way, because I've been teaching workshops, been teaching 60 workshops all around the
Photography.
world in Cuba, Ethiopia, in Morocco, in Sri Lanka, and many places.
It keeps it
And
very interesting.
yeah,
You keep
and
it
I've
very
I've seen
interesting.
how you do photography, how you approach the difficulty of taking a good picture. That's how you do everything. So you can practice on strategies towards solving problems, towards grabbing opportunities in general by looking at how do you photograph. So that's also kind of a unique book. So I think that my different approach to life has also led me to these different outcomes, from these books. So you may be onto something there. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is that most people don't realize that let's go with the photography workshop. You put yourself in a challenging situation where you have a split second to make the exact photo.
Yeah.
And the amount of times you take that photo and it doesn't go pretty high. Like, but the people don't see the failures, quote unquote failures. You just see the times when you actually made the photo and you're like, look at the northern lights, it's beautiful. And the thing is that people don't realize that that photo actually took 20,000 photos and now you've just progressed a lot more because you've taken a lot more reps. But when you put yourself in this
Mhm.
uncomfortable situation when you're open to failing, now it's like, okay, I'm traveling around the world. Sometimes we don't have a place to stay. Sometimes this cancels. Sometimes the flight doesn't work. Like, it's just a whole lot of life. Like, and I think that's part of it. That when you put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, you cause yourself to grow. So I
Yeah,
purposely put
absolutely.
myself in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, absolutely. To be comfortable over time, you have to tolerate, coming into uncomfortable situations. That's how you get uncomfortable. How you get comfortable. If you try to have it comfortably all the time, over time you will become uncomfortable because you
Yeah.
will not have the resilience and power to dare to do uncomfortable things. And photography is about being on the right place at the right time, and actually doing something, pushing the shutter. So it's an art to that, so to be able to do that, you have to be brave, but you also have to tolerate failures. So I often say that to make twice as many good pictures, you have to take twice as many bad pictures. So you have to learn from your failures. And you have to
Yes.
learn from your successes as well, because a lot of people don't do that either. That's also what I've learned, that often people, when they have succeeded in something, they often don't repeat it because they
Yeah.
haven't really learned from the success either. So you can both fail in learning from failures and learning from successes, and you have to be authentic. You don't have to copy others. You can maybe copy others in the start, learn from
Yeah.
others, of course, but you have to find your way, your uniqueness, because
Yes.
when I in a workshop see something that's unique to this photographer, that's so much more interesting.
Yeah, because you're doing it your way. And as you're telling these stories, it's funny. In high school, I took a photography class, and I remember we would do it. We'd walk around for an hour. We all had our cameras, and we'd take different pictures. And there was one day where there was a fire drill that happened, and the fire truck was going. I remember capturing the photo, and the fire truck was still moving, but everything around it was still. And it was like my photo, like the photo that you print out or whatever. And I could just experience you traveling around the world, teaching these people, getting that aha moment where you're like, yes, that's the photo. And it's
Yeah.
this really cool experience that a lot of us aren't creative, and we are creative enough, but we don't allow ourselves to experience this because we might be too busy with our job or too busy with our life or too busy with whatever. And how did you find ways to really prioritize the life you wanted to build, and how were you able to do these photography workshops and all this travel and stack all of these experiences?
That was because I could work for a short amount of time and make good money, really good money, and then go off, and I would know there would always be a need for me, there would always be a work available for this kind of work out in the districts of Norway. That has never been a problem for these 25 years. So
You never
so
wanted to
then I
just
could go
work and
out
just
and
You
what's
never
that?
wanted to just work and just stack as much money as possible, like the American dream? Just kidding.
No, maybe I should have done that, but no, I was just eager to get out. So it has worked well, and then I was doing photography for myself, for like 15 years. I was just concentrating on my own career as a photographer, making photo books, fine art books, having exhibitions and so on. And then after a while, I was asked to do a workshop, and that just well took off from there. And I became fascinated by teaching others photography, because when you teach others, you learn so much yourself also. So it just became a lifestyle, so like 2 weeks working as a doctor, 2 weeks traveling, and then so on. And I like the mix of it. And I didn't really have I knew that I could not work in a normal job, going to the office every day. That was
Yeah.
never an alternative. I did not want to live my life, like that.
Yeah.
I saw that I saw that okay, maybe we can live for 80 years. I wanted to take control of those 80 years. I need to decide to experience what I want to experience during those 80 years. I cannot let other people govern my life.
Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of the basis of it. And so I find out that I could work this way, and particularly because nobody else worked that way.
Yeah.
So it was space for me because all the other doctors, they wanted steady jobs and they wanted prestigious jobs, taking PhDs and becoming professors and I didn't care about that. I just wanted to live an exciting life.
That's always been my goal, the exciting life. I'm glad someone else said it because it's true. There's so many times where we just can be so they try to conform everyone so often, and then you start to realize you're like, I do not align with this. Like, there is more out here for me. I need to continue to grow my life and stack these experiences. And for the photography, what was your favorite like location to shoot or places that you've been shooting? Just because it sounds like the workshop sounds fantastic.
Yeah, one of my favorite countries is in Morocco. So I probably had like 15 or 20 workshops in Morocco, which
Oh
is a
wow.
fascinating country with so diverse. The clothes, the colors, the desert, the mountains, the coast. It's such an intriguing country. If you get the chance to go to Morocco, you would love it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it's just a short ferry ride from Spain, so that's
Yeah.
incredible that there's such a different world just across the Gibraltar Strait. In southern Spain. So, and I love India, Sri Lanka. I love Cuba, of course. It's a wonderful place. And doing photography is a kind of a way to explore the place more. You look more attentive to the place
Yeah.
because you have to process it visually. You have to really look at it. So it's not just to go to the cafe and have a coffee and the lunch. You really have to explore the place through the camera. You have to be present, and for a picture to be good, you have to be present in the moment, and that is
Yeah.
maybe the most important thing about it.
Yeah, I've always found that whenever people are truly excited about something or pumped up or really feeling engaged, it comes from that presence and then they kind of lose track of time. And that's literally one of the reasons with the podcast. I use my phone. Obviously, I have a mobile setup on my laptop, but I use my phone as the video so that I can become more engaged because when you're truly engaged in something, people can feel the difference. So like even if I go like scuba diving or snorkeling or any of these activities or running, like whatever activity you're doing, if you're able to be super present in it, it shows up with that. And that's becoming a major luxury nowadays. It's not no, it's not the requirement. People
Yeah,
are multitasking constantly.
yeah. So they're not in the moment, and all we have is the moment, really.
Yeah.
So people are, planning for the future. They're thinking about something happened in the past, but where we live is in this moment, and of course the problem is also that there are so many people having a commercial interest in your attention. So your
Yes.
attention is always being, you know, dragged here and there from other people's economical interests, and that is not free, because we pay with small chunks of our time, and the
Yeah.
time is something we will never get back. This
Yeah.
is non-renewable source. So our attention is a trade. So we have to take care of what we put our attention to, and choose it ourselves, and not just from other commercial interests.
Yeah. And so how did you, and I think what you're kind of getting at is that like people are always reaching out to us for new opportunities or saying, can we get some time with you? Or saying, can we learn about this or whatever it is? And the problem is that the majority of us are constantly on everyone else's schedule and we're not on our own schedule because everyone's always asking for our time. So how did you figure out a way to prioritize your time in regard to like the travel or the sailing? And I'd also be interested in how you thought about the financing of it all because a year long or a 4 year long trip is that's quite a trip. Like, do you give up your home? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, and buy a boat.
Yeah,
So a catamaran. Well, financially, it is nice when you're sailing because we did not know how to sail before we bought the boat. So,
oh
so,
wow. Learn on the
so, so
go.
that's also a good principle I've learned from Richard Branson, to start before you're ready. So, if your dream is going sailing around the world, just get the boat. And
Yeah.
but we bought it on a yacht management deal. So for 5 years, it was going in a charter in Greece, and we could use it maybe 3 or 4 weeks every season. So we learned how to sail that way. Had friends with us, and then after 5 years, the boat was ours, and we could take it out of Greece and then through the Mediterranean, over the Atlantic, and so on. So doing a yacht management is nice if you want to sail and have your own boat.
Yeah.
Um, and then of course also we knew that after those 5 years the boat was ours, so there was a deadline. By this
Yeah.
date I have to finance the trip for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I just worked, to save up the money. Yeah. And of course then as a doctor in Norway, we make quite good money. So I was able to do that. And then to rent out the apartment for the time when we went sailing.
Okay.
So you can do these different things. We would, like, for example, I would never have been able to buy this boat without the yacht management deal, where you get the
Yeah.
boat kind of for half price, and they cover all the expenses for those 5 years. And
Yeah.
then after those 5 years, the boat is ours. So that's a way to finance something,
There's creative
uh,
ways of going about things if you want to
yeah.
make something happen.
Yeah, because I recently read the book, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, which probably
Yeah.
everyone else has been reading. And what he says there, he says that, okay, if you have the attitude that I can't afford it, then it stops there.
Yeah.
But if you think, how can I afford it?
Yes.
Then you get curious about finding the solutions to that. So that
Yes.
is what I did, so that you can be, you can kind of live your dreams, but you have to explore how to do that. And that could be, you don't need a sailboat. You can be walking around the world. You can be doing pilgrimages. You can walk across America. There's actually a trail that I dream of walking. It's called the American Discovery Trail,
Yeah.
all across the U.S. from Delaware to San Francisco.
Oh wow.
And you can live, cheaply. You can have a tent. You can probably
Yeah.
you could probably I would say you could probably save, like $15,000, and you could just start walking. So
Yeah.
so there's always a solution. So if I couldn't find the money to buy the sailboat, I would have done that.
Yeah.
There's always a way.
Yeah, and it's important because a lot of us are always thinking we have to conform, we have to live this way, we have to do this, and it's like no, nothing has to be
Yeah.
done in any way. Like it's
Yeah.
very freeing. You can actually do
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Yeah. And a lot of people do that. So so and you just have to, and that is what I discovered on the first trip around the world when I was then 20 or 21.
And
I discovered that
how do you
so
do
many
that? Yeah,
people, I'd been in the army and saved up some money from that. And yeah. So and then we did 1 year, bought the round the world ticket. And then on this trip I met so many people living, in
yeah,
other
different
in other
lifestyles,
ways, because
nomadic ways.
before that I just known that okay, you start you go find an education, and then you find a job, and then you do that for the rest of your life, you know. And
Yeah,
then when I did this travel, I met so many people living different lives, you know, other travelers,
yeah,
other solutions, and then I thought that okay, I can take charge of my life. At least I will start going for that. And then if that fails, okay, then I can always live a normal life, you know. Um, but I want to try that first to see if I can take charge of my life and find the experiences and travels and that I really look for.
yeah, and really create it because so many people sit there and they think, "Oh my God, it's impossible. It's so hard. It's so challenging." And it's like, no, you just have to get intentional with what you want to accomplish and realize what you want to do and realize what you want to create. Like, and once you like put it out there and the thought has occurred, then it's such an opening experience because then it's like, how are we going to figure this out? And like for me on this trip currently, the only thing we did was book a flight in, a flight out, and we got our first place to stay. And that was literally all we planned. And that place to stay was only for like 10 days, 12 days. And then everything else, it's like, where do you want to go next? I don't know. Where do you want to go? I don't know. We'll figure it
Yeah,
out. We'll look at the map. We'll see what's close. We'll see where the prices work. We'll see where we can stay. And like sometimes it's challenging and sometimes it's a little stressful, but at the same time, it's like if you weren't living that exciting life, like, do you want to be doing the alternative?
yeah.
You can always go
And
back.
also when you get out of your home place, because when you're at home, you're kind of in a network that holds you back, you know. And then when you get the distance from your home place, you see your life from a distance, and suddenly the restrictions that you thought you had, you know, they're not there anymore. So a journey like that, you know, or a pilgrimage where you walk. For example, I made a documentary film about walking the Camino to Santiago de Compostela in France,
Oh,
where
wow.
you walk for a month, and then you get real perspective of your life, you know. So liberated from this network, you know, that you have put yourself in, or the society has put yourself in at
Yeah.
home often. Yeah.
I I completely agree. I mean, the other really cool thing is like you always have friends and like you can always come back and kind of pick up where you were before. But the other thing is that like when you're traveling, you don't know anyone. So you got to be a little more
Yeah.
friendly. You got to be a little more outgoing. You got to understand those things. And but then the other benefit of that is that no one's really reaching out to you going, come here. Can you come to do this? Can you come to this? So everything is on your own accord where you decide your life and you're like this morning we went on a run and then it's in Nice and there's the rock beaches and then the water. So I went in the water this morning and I was
Yeah.
like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's this whole thing of like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, how often do you get to go run and then go for a swim, like a cold exposure swim, and then just walk around and like, I was like, this is amazing. Because when you're
Yeah.
present, you really feel that in life. And I think that's super important. So,
Yeah, and also when you do these things, your chances of living longer and having more of these experiences increases, you know. When you go running, when you go into the cold water, when you sleep well, because that is the change that I had then at the Panama Canal. That I
yeah,
saw that I want to live this life as long as I can, but if I continue not taking care of my body, the body will stop me at some point, you know.
yes,
So I have to do my job towards my body, you know, like go running, like go into the cold water, sleeping, eating right, so that I can take more pictures. You know, that was my first aim, you know. I want to take more pictures, you know. That's I have to live longer. And then I have to do the right thing. So it's good that you go running and do these things, because you will have more, you will increase the chances of getting more years by the
yeah,
sea. Yeah. Mm.
yes. And that's for anyone in the audience. Like, you guys have to realize that it doesn't, everything you want to do is completely free. Like, just straight up everything that's good for you is completely free, and we try to make it like I need this sauna, I need this thing, I need that thing, and it's like those are all incredible and they're awesome, but in reality everything you're doing is like free or almost free. And if you
Yeah,
don't realize that, because it's like an investment in your health. Some people are like, oh, a gym membership's too expensive. Like, do you want to live longer? They're like, yes. Okay. Is it that expensive? No. Okay. Okay. Like, let's just clarify these things. Like, these are good activities for you. And like, even running's like completely free. Like, you don't need to
yeah,
go to a gym. You could run
yeah,
outside. And if you're like,
yeah.
it's cold out, then it's good. You're getting cold exposure and running. Let's go.
Yeah. If you go to the beach, you don't even need the sneakers. You can just run barefoot even, so
100%.
if you live there. So and
Absolutely.
also that's a good thing about the Pulse Cure, the book also, that all the things that you need to live longer and healthier, that's free. It's
So
free
what are
to
some of those things?
meditate, it's free to sleep, better. It's free to, or it's even cheaper to drink water instead of a lot of other things. Um, it's um, it's even cheaper not to drink alcohol. And breathing exercises, is free. Exercising is free. Building muscle is free. Um, so um, and that's good because it's only after that you get sick. That's when your wallet decides whether you get the best treatment or not. But
Yeah.
to avoid getting sick, that's equal for everyone, with or without money. So
Yeah.
um so that
I
was
love
nice also for me as a doctor, to to show that getting healthy is actually free, so you don't have to pay for it.
well, it comes down to these things of like, do you want the cheap dopamine, which is like social media, go scrolling on your phone, like all of these like having a beer, like very cheap dopamine. Or you can have the other dopamine where you're like, man, I just got a runner's high, or I just got excited coming out of the cold water. Like, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable and it's a little weird, but like you're energized. You're
Yeah,
excited about the day. You feel better. Your heart rate
yeah,
variability, like your stress levels are down. You're able to
yeah,
handle difficult conversations. You're able to
yeah.
grow. And like if you don't put yourself in these areas and start to think about this, so what are the action steps you would give to the people? Because you mentioned like sleep better, meditate, like what like really simplify that. Like what's the meditation look like? What's the sleep look like? Is it like yeah.
Yeah, this sleep is the first step in the pulse cure, and that is the most important thing too. And you can't force yourself to sleep better. You just have to, you know, relax in the evening, so that your mind and body is more prepared for going to sleep. Earlier, I used to think that, okay, if I'm really tired in the evening, I work really hard all the way until I go to bed. That'll be a good night's sleep. But that is not the watches clearly show that this is not a good strategy. So the best strategy is to calm down, to wind down in maybe 2 hours before you go to sleep. Um, Read a book, dim the lights, breathe slowly, take it easy. Um, like a plane going down to the airport is often what I picture in my mind, to wind down. And you need to not have had caffeine, or coffee or from energy drinks, until maybe 12 p.m. In the day, because the coffee will still be there in the evening. It has a half time
Yeah.
of 6 hours, so you should really not drink in the afternoon, from the coffee. It will disturb your sleep. And your bedroom should be cold or cool. It should be between the 60 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit,
Okay.
15 to 18 degrees Celsius. That will improve the sleep, and you will see it on the watches that
Yeah.
your sleep will improve from that. And it should be totally dark,
Yeah.
as dark as you can see the hand in front of you in the darkness. And you should have a sleep consistency. That's maybe the most important, that you go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, more or less, and as
Yes.
much as you can, even in the
Yes.
weekends. And of course, you should also skip alcohol.
Yeah.
because alcohol will really wreck your sleep. And I
That's
used to think the opposite. Because I used to drink 2 glasses of wine, maybe three, every day, because I thought, I fell asleep easier, so I thought it was good. But it really wrecks your sleep, and the wearables will show you that very clearly. So
and
the first thing a lot of people do when they get the wearables is to cut down on alcohol. They see the
yeah,
physiological price of alcohol.
yeah,
So yeah, that is some key things about sleep. And once you are sleeping better, and you can also confirm it on your wearables that you are sleeping better, um, then you have more energy to do the other things in the pulse cure that you may need more willpower to do.
yeah.
Also, you should also not eat late in the evening. You should not eat after maybe 3 hours before you go to bed, because if
So
you eat too late, your body will be busy, digesting the food, but it's not, your body is ancient, the mechanisms in our bodies are very ancient, and they are not made for eating in the evening. So it will
yeah,
disturb the whole sleep.
the best one I've ever heard, which is your stuff aligns very close to it. It's the 3-2-1 method, which is 3 hours before don't eat food, 2 hours before stop drinking water, and then 1 hour before the technology, like kind of
Yeah,
no technology. Because when you do that stuff, like it's really interesting. I have a buddy, and he ended up he usually fasts on Mondays, so he'll just fast the entire day on Monday. He goes, dude, I wake up on Tuesday, and he has a Whoop. His numbers are always 96, 97, 98, 99, 100 when he's completely fasted
yeah.
because and it's just incredible. Then meanwhile, that same weekend he could have went out and gotten like 2 or 3 on the recovery, but then he'll do the whole fasting thing and just completely clean.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting, because the food industry wants you to think that if you lack energy, you need to eat something, that costs money. But actually, for a lot of the truth is the opposite. Some you can get energy from not eating, from fasting, and you will see it on the wearables, and that will motivate you, because it
Yeah.
is a bit uncomfortable fasting. But when you see on the wearables the effect of it on your physiology, then it's motivating. So I also do fasting. I do have a restricted feeding window. So I eat from between 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then outside that, I try not to eat anything. And that is also very useful. And as I also see this on my watch, then it's easier to do it even if you stay a little bit hungry. But on that scheme, though, I'm less hungry than I used to be. When you eat something in high carbs and you get low blood sugar and you eat and
Yeah.
on and off the whole day through, then you are hungry multiple times during the day. But now
Yeah.
I'm a lot less hungry. I have a lot more control of my eating. So either kind of the food control you, or you control the food. So so earlier I would eat, from the early breakfast and until I went to bed,
Yeah.
uh,
And
governed by the hunger. But now I govern the hunger, so to speak. Yeah.
yeah, I completely agree. Like one of the rules I have is like wake up, work out, and then you can eat a meal. So like we had dinner last night at like 7, I think. And then I actually ate again at like probably 9:45. So you're at 14 and a half hours. And like that's the thing. If you can eat earlier and let that food window go and then sleep, then by the time you wake up, you're already at 12 hours anyway. And then it's like, what's
Yeah.
another 3 or 4 hours? Like you start to
Yeah.
realize it that you don't need the food right away. But you are right. Like if you stay out real late drinking, then you wake up the next morning, you're feeling slow. Like you're like, I need something to eat to feel better. Like it's just the combination. And then you're like, oh, well, my stomach hurts. Well, I don't know if I'm all right. Like, and it's this whole thing. And you're like, okay, I realized that I've messed up the body a little bit.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
So once people start following the sleep protocol, what should they do next?
Then they should start taking control of their exercise, I would say, so that you have good sleep, and then you need to have an exercise schedule. You need to maybe 5 times a week. You should be walking, brisk walking, maybe 30 minutes. It will not take a lot, but 30 minutes, get your pulse up a little bit. That's good. If you could do some jogging, that's even better. So if one of those 5 half hours throughout the week could be the jogging, that'll be very good. That you will. So the best way to get your pulse down is to get it up, to be able to get it up, So, and even half-hour jogging once a week will do magic for your physiology.
And
And you also need to build muscle. You need to have muscle because muscle is not only mechanically important, but it also will release hormones. It will release proteins that will improve the connections in your brain. It's called myokines. It's like brain-derived neurotrophic factor and so on. So your whole system, your whole body cooperates if you do the right thing, to improve your health. Um, and so that's the most important to build. And the Garmin watches will show you your VO2 max, which is your fitness level. And I can see that if you have a poor fitness level, then you will struggle, in your everyday life.
yeah,
With a poor fitness level, a VO2 max maybe of 30 or below, then everything you do will you need effort to do like daily activities. If you
yeah.
improve your VO2 max by running or rowing or whatever you do, then you can do the same activities kind of at the lower heart rate. It's easier for you to do everything in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you really think about it, like when I ran the New York City Marathon in 2021, and when you're training for that stuff, you're running really long miles and your heart rate just got like literally nosedives where it's like I might have been at like 55, goes down to 45, 43. You're like your resting heart rate. And when you really think about it, if we only have a certain amount of beats in our life, if we can take it from 100 resting heart rate to 50, that's half the effort it takes.
Yeah.
And there are people walking around with heart rates of 120, 150, 200, like you maybe not 200, that's a little ridiculous. But but you just start to realize you're like if I can lower it just a little bit, then that's more time that I'm going to have because it's something that you don't have to rely on as much. It's something that you don't have to think on. Plus, you're getting outside, you're getting the natural light, you're seeing the sun. Like these are all good things for us.
Yeah. Yeah, the sun particularly, that's very important, and we are shying away from the sun because people are scared of getting skin cancer, but there's a big price for that. And we need the sun. Our cells are developed through cooperating with the energy from the sun, from the red light from the sun, and our mitochondria in our cells need the sun, to work better, which is also again visible in the heart rate. You can see it on the HRV in the summer. The HRV is better than in the winter because of
Oh wow.
the energy from the sun. So of course we need it, but we should not get sunburned. But we need the rays from the sun. So
And the
that's important.
and from somebody who gets sunburned very easily, the best way to do this is like there's a UV index, and the UV index will tell us what the ratings are. So usually from like 11 a.m. to like 3 p.m. is like when it's the highest. So if you go in the morning or in the late afternoon, you're still getting sun exposure, but it's just not that, hey, we might get sunburn here. So the UV scale is a very important one to follow because you can get sunburned
Yeah,
very easily.
yeah, absolutely. So be in the sun, but avoid getting sunburned. That's what creates the problems for the cells. To get this inflammation.
Absolutely. So what other things are in the protocol? Like, is there like no alcohol ever? Is it like what are the other things that you would add?
I don't think it's no alcohol ever, but you have to choose, that prioritize. Okay, this this party or this occasion, I'd like to have some alcohol. But if there's other times you just drink alcohol just out of habit, you cut those glasses, the unnecessary ones. You'll cut, and maybe you cut because there's a direct link between the number of glasses. So two glasses is worse, three glasses is worse on a linear scale. Yeah, so that maybe you can cut out the last two or three glasses of wine, drop the last whiskey before you go to bed and so on. That I used to like. You'll get once you see the physiological price, it's easier for you to manage this. How and when should I drink and how much, it's like if it's like if you go to the bar, you can see the bill right away, but if um the physiology is like you only discover the day after that this drink cost me like $200, like in physiological money, you get the surprise. So I think it's and some people tolerate alcohol better than others.
Yeah.
So it may depend. So these variables will show you how you react to things and not just have an average of 1,000
Yeah.
people or so on in a research study will react. So they will show you how you react to alcohol. And it may also depend on the occasion. I hear a lot of people, if they're among friends and everything is calm, they can tolerate it better than in other situations where there is more insecurity and so on.
Mm.
So it's also based on the totality of it. So if you have a stressful life, then you should really not put another load on your system, I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people that lead stressful lives think that, okay, I should have a glass of wine or two in the evening and wind down. But when you see then in the morning the physiological bill from that, you cut it out, so it's a vicious circle. You
Of
are
the
stressed.
compounding negatively, or you can compound positively.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, you get more control. If you didn't have the budget, if you didn't see the money going in and out from your account, then you would be blind. And this is a way to um, get the overview of your physiological account. You see the budget that you have, the body budget that you have to spend, how to save energy and how to use energy. Um, and that will improve your performance,
A hundred.
particularly for business.
Yeah, I mean, for business owners, 100%. And the other big thing is like, if you're in, like, if you're going to dinner and you want to just have a glass of wine on a Tuesday versus not having it, you'll probably get a much better sleep if you don't have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's just
yeah,
these ideas of like, what are the gives and takes that you want to create, and where do you really see what you're looking to accomplish? And I think those are super important questions to ask, because when we don't have a direction or don't have something we're working towards, then it's this aimless, let's get drunk on a Tuesday. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? There's just
yeah,
no direction. So like when you have that direction and that purpose, I think that helps so much more in working towards these big goals. And for you,
yeah,
it was the purpose of, I want to take more photos and I want to live longer. And it's like, great wake up. And like, if you guys need help with your purpose, you could always reach out, and like, because it's these things that like once we have the purpose, then it's way easier to say no to the situation because you have a
yeah,
different direction you're going in.
yeah. Yeah, you have to know your aim, where you're going, what you want to accomplish.
Absolutely. So for you, are there any big trips coming up? Any ideas you got going on?
Oh, I'm going, we had to sell the first boat in the French Polynesia because COVID came and it was just too expensive having it on an island and we were here. So we sold the first boat and then with that money, because we were able to sell it for the same price 14 years after we bought it
Oh,
as we
wow.
bought it from. That was incredible. Even during COVID, with neither the buyer, the seller, or the broker were at the boat. So, so
Wow.
it was sold.
You're on three-way calls.
And then we bought the new boat and with a new charter yacht management deal. So we're actually going sailing in the Seychelles this summer. Also go sailing in Mallorca in Spain in 1 month's time. So we have a lot of these shorter sailing trips now in Croatia um, but because we have the boat now is in Dream Yacht Charter. They have ports all over the world, marinas all over the world. So they don't care if we use our boat or another boat. So last year we were at Bahamas, and we could use boats everywhere. And then in
Oh, it's a
4 years,
yacht
the boat will be
share,
ours again, this
but
new
it's a
boat, and
yacht
then we
share for
can
the,
sail around. What's that?
but it's a yacht share for that period of time.
Yeah. So for
Okay.
then 6 years, then we can sail for like 6 to 12 weeks every year, in whatever boat inside their
Oh,
system.
that's available.
Yeah. And then we bought our boat for half price. And then after 6 years, the boat is ours, and it will still be worth more than when we bought it. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
it's a it's a way of actually making money, while we can use these boats for like six
Yeah.
years.
No,
So it's
absolutely. Instead of it just sitting there taking up cost, I like that. That's awesome.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what do you love so much about the sailing?
It's the freedom. It's the closest to nature and the sea. So to be close to the sea is so amazing, and because we live so much life now with our virtual lives, through the screens. So just to have me and the family and friends, because they also come along, of course. Uh, Near the sea is just a very important thing in my life. So that's what part I want to have in my life. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and you are free. You can, of course, with the Starlink, we will be able to be digital nomads. We can do our
Yeah.
job digitally, even then if you are on the boat anywhere in the world. So
Wow. Explain how
so
that works. Just for those who don't
Starlink is, Elon Musk's.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So then you can have a broadband access, from anywhere in the world through
Wow.
satellites. So you can do our jobs from anywhere. So
Yeah. That's incredible.
yeah. And also, it's a bit uncomfortable being on a boat. I had to learn new things. I was really not a technical person. And when you have a boat, you have to know something about your electronics of it. You have to
Yeah.
something about the plumbing. Something always goes wrong on the boat. It's a perpetual fixing state
Problem fixing.
of the boat,
Yeah.
problem fixing. So if you really want to become good at problem fixing and you want to have new problems coming your way all the time, then it's just to get a boat, and you'll get the problems all the time. So, but uh, I became a little bit more handy, in
Yeah.
this way,
Well,
So,
you get more
so the
reps.
challenges you get, yeah, you get challenges all the time. So, but because what I thought would be sailing around the world, be relaxing, with the drink and the easy life, it
Mhm.
proved to be totally the opposite, and that
Yeah.
is what I liked about it also, in the end.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So where can people find you? Where can they learn more about you? What's that you have a website as well, I understand.
We have a website. It's called thepulsecure.com. It's a place where you can share your insights into your nervous system, what you find on your Whoop or Garmin watch or your wearable. There are workshops there, webinars, there's a blog. So there's so much to learn about how to use the wearables, and you will get answers to your question. There'll be different groups according to which interest you have or which maybe
Yeah.
disease you have. If you have cancer, for example, heart rate variability is coupled to cancer, the risk of
Oh, wow.
cancer. If you get cancer, the prognosis. If you get cured of cancer, the risk of getting it back. Um,
Yeah.
so, so there are a lot of groups in there. Of course, my book, The Pulse Cure, is released in the US now, the mid-May.
Okay.
And it is also available on audiobook and
Yeah.
ebook. Um, and I'm on Instagram on Dr. underscore Torkil point MD. That's my English speaking Instagram. So it's not so big yet as my Norwegian one. I have like
No, all
25,000
good.
followers in Norway, but hopefully I can, hopefully through the book I'm able to to get the message through also to the American audience. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely. I mean, it's a super fascinating thing. I find that in health, everyone tries to complex everything. They try to make it super complex so that you can pay them money to do this thing.
mm,
And you're just going, no, it's actually a lot easier than that. It's actually fairly simple. Just
it's
follow this
very
thing.
simple. Yeah,
And then,
it's very simple. Yeah. And I see this because as a doctor, of course, when I get a patient that is 95 years old, still at home, still functions both the brain and the body, then I'm very curious about what had this person done in
yes.
their lives, and that is what I'm talking about in the pulse cure. They haven't been exercising too much. They haven't been doing something out of the ordinary. They have been sleeping. They have been had an access to calm. They have been exercising moderately. They have been eating whole foods. They have been taking naps. They have had good relationships to friends and family. Um, and this is what gets you old. You don't need, I think, expensive supplements or weird,
Yeah,
activities to reach that state.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll put all that in the show notes. Torkel, you have been a wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Jordan. So it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for reaching the end of the podcast. For that, we'll give you a complimentary coaching session in the link below with Edwards Consulting. Hope to see you there and have a great day and keep clocking in.